Okay guys, I'm gonna show you some supine or on your back exercises that are going to work your lower transverse abdominis, hamstrings, and hip flexors up by the hip socket in a way that is going to translate into running at some point, but we got to get these muscles stronger. We're going to move them slowly so that you can feel all the places that might need a little bit of extra work. If you're feeling some instability, you know that that's the places that you need to work a little bit more. And there's going to be 3 of them, and 2 of them are going to be a progression, so I'm going to do that one first. So it'll be like a 2-part exercise. So again, I'm going to have you lay down on your back, and you'll bend your knees, and the setup for lying down is the same as for the standing, so that the big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Inner groins, the inner thighs will be together, so we can use the strength of those muscles as almost like a bridge. And the pubic bone will need to drop down so that the low back is not flat against the mat, remembering that this is not arching your back, this is a hip hinge. We're taking the pelvis and hinging it on the hip socket. So I'm going to get started, and the things to remember to feel are those lower transverse abdominis working throughout the entire exercise. Hamstrings only working, letting the big glute max stay on what it's going to feel to you like either a stretch or relaxed. It's actually an eccentric contraction, and trying to kind of get in the mindset that it's not turned off, it's just on eccentric contraction, and feeling the upper part of the hip flexors fire. So, and I'm going to talk you guys through it, especially when we get into the contralateral part of it. It can get a little bit, as you're doing it, like, what am I supposed to do? So I'm going to break it down piece by piece. And then once you're doing the exercise, hopefully you'll start to feel that it does it goes the way you think. Your body knows what it should do when you're in these exercises. So we'll get started. So we'll start supine. Get myself so that you can see the big pieces is the feet. So making sure that you can see what my feet are doing. So big toes together, heels apart, and hands can either come down to the side, or you can still use them as monitor hands just to make sure that lower part of the transverse abdominis, remember, way below the belly button, it's between the hip points, above the pubic bone, because that's where it attaches. You can just kind of touch and make sure that that is going to be toning as we do this exercise. So you can see my inner thighs are together, and if your low back is touching, you're going to drop your pubic bone down, so just drop it down. And at that point, you should feel those inner thighs kick on even more, and you may actually feel the lower transverse abdominis start to tone. So we're going to let the legs go out long, and you're going to feel those lower transverse abdominis start to tone as soon as we start to move the legs, and let them stay together, just nice and slow. You'll do this on your carpet or on even your hardwood floor will be fine. We're using the floor as a little bit of tensioning here too. So as your legs go long, make sure you're dropping your pubic bone, because when you get there, your low back should still not be touching. And then to come back up, you're just going to drag your heels, and as soon as you do that, you should feel that lower transverse abdominis tone. The pubic bone automatically drops down. You're going to feel your hip flexors. You'll feel your hamstrings are working. Coming back up. Once you're here, you'll slide it down again. Just nice and slow. You'll also notice your core musculature up through here is working too. So just feeling for all of that. And you can do, as many of them that feels okay to you, just to kind of get a sense of what that feels like. Noticing hamstrings, monitoring that your big glute max is not, you're not squeezing your butt to make any of this happen. Slide it out. And the next time you drag your feet back up, so you drag the heels back up, big toes still touching, heels apart, you're going to let the left foot isometrically, so it means it's not going to move. Drag back towards the heel, and you're just going to bring that right leg up, and you're going to feel that hip flexor fire. The legs kiss each other. That helps you know where they're at. We're also trying to really keep that midline. The right foot is on the mat now, so the heel will isometrically, if you can see, my foot's not moving, but as soon as I do that, my hamstring fires, and I'm going to float the left leg up, and you can feel that hip flexor fire. And back down, and then switch sides. So just going back and forth between these, trying to get that sense of what it's like to use your hamstrings on the right, hip flexors on the left, and then switching back. And again, you should feel that lower part of the transverse abdominis is with you. More than likely, some of the upper musculature of the core is also participating. Just checking all of those pieces to make sure that you feel that good control. And once you have done that, you can do it 10 times. We'll go ahead and rest. So that's exercise 1 and 2. So number 1 is the heel drags, getting the sense of what those feels like to use those hamstrings, abdominals. And then number 2 is in a bent knee position, drag left heel back isometrically, lift the right, kiss the inner thighs, drag the other side, feel the hip flexors. The whole time I'm in a hip hinge, my low back's not touching, the abdominal musculature is working. So play with that, let me know, and I'll show you the next one.